Welcome to the Entrepreneur Master Series, otherwise known as EMS. I am the real Jason Duncan, and I am so glad that you've decided to join us today because on this episode of EMS, we've got an amazing guest expert and an amazing topic that will apply to every single entrepreneur on the planet. I can't imagine anybody on the planet as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, who doesn't have a website. Because if you don't have a website, I mean, what are you really doing these days? I mean, if you could think about years ago, we had to have yellow pages ads. Well, today, the website is what you got to have. And really, more than anything else, that website is something that just, if nothing else, gives validation. Like if somebody wants to look you up, they go see, oh, okay, they have a website. They can read information. We're going to be talking about the three secrets to generate website traffic in 2023 and beyond. But the cool thing is we're not just going to be talking about three secrets. We're going to be talking about three categories of secrets. And then our guest expert, Ira Bowman, whom I'll introduce in just a moment, is going to do a deep dive into those three categories and perhaps even more to give you as an entrepreneur exactly what you need to create more website traffic. We want more people going to your page, seeing what you've got going on. Isn't that what you want? Well, what is the Entrepreneur Master Series? Well, if this is your first time joining us, thank you for being here. I do these as live 90-minute webinars twice a month where I bring in an outside expert like Ira today, and we talk about a different topic every single time of some import to you as an entrepreneur. So today we're talking about websites and how to get more traffic. We did our last one was about podcasting. How do you make money through podcasting? The one coming up after this is going to be on mindset. How do you shift your mindset to double your business? We've talked about taxes. We've talked about sales. We've talked about social media. Anything interesting to you to help you as an entrepreneur get to the next level is the topic that I'm looking for on EMS. So I'm really glad you're here. We also release these later as a special edition of my podcast, the syndicated on the C-Suite Radio Network, my podcast called The Root of All Success. But let me dive back into our topic today and then introduce our guest expert, and then we'll get right into the nitty gritty. So 3 secrets to generate website traffic for 2023 is going to be a way for you to understand how essential it is to have an online presence to drive traffic to your website. We're going to cover these 3 tips and more to improve your traffic and this thing that everybody seems to be talking about called SEO, search engine optimization. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to explore the importance of keyword research. We're going to look at the power of video marketing. And I've got our sponsor, our title sponsor of the EMS is a video marketing company, which I'll talk a little bit about them when it's appropriate. And we're going to be talking about how and why you should be keeping your website up to date. This webinar is perfect for you because you are looking for ways to increase and attract more traffic to your site so that you can get more business. So this is going to be great. Now, let me tell you about our guest expert today. His name is Ira Bowman. Professionally, Ira is a marketing and sales expert. He's also a photographer. He's a graphic designer, a website builder. He's involved in philanthropy. He's a SEO content writer. He's a TEDx speaker. He and I spoke at the same TEDx event this past 2 Aprils. He's a credentialed member of the press. He's built a large social media following with over 200,000 followers on LinkedIn and over 100,000 followers on Instagram. So if you're here because Ira told you about this, hello, I'm the real Jason Duncan. You're going to see your old boy Ira here in just a second. But Ira holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Liberty University. My daughter's actually working on her bachelor's there right now. He graduated a 3.916 GPA in interdisciplinary studies with a concentration in business and religion, which translates into him running a webinar today on how to increase traffic to your website, evidently. But this says a lot about Ira because he has a lot of interests. And he strives to do things with excellence. And I've known him for a while, and we've become pretty good friends, and we run kind of the same network circles, and we've done some cool stuff together. But over his 25-year career, Ira has worked in restaurant, e-commerce, print, marketing industries. He's worked in all these different industries. And the majority of his career has been spent in the sales role and print and graphics industry, helping small business and medium-sized businesses gain market share and increase their sales. But since June of 2020, you know what happened that year, right? The launch of his business, Bowman Digital Media. Ira's focus on helping increase visibility for clients on social media and increasing website traffic. And the internet, of course, has become the main source of commerce and visibility, and important is very, very important to increase our sales. So, without any further ado, would you please help me welcome our guest expert for today's EMS, none other than Ira Bowman. What's up there, Ira?
How you doing, brother? Man, after all hearing all that, I'm like, who are you talking about? Somebody else? Or it's me? No, it's me. I'm
Well,
glad to be.
welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show. We got a lot that we're going to be talking about today with the website traffic stuff. So before we get into that, I know I gave your intro, kind of talked about the bio and where we came to today, but I think a lot of people are probably going to be interested. How did you go to 200,000 followers on LinkedIn and 100,000 on Instagram in a relatively short amount of time? Did you just buy followers? Did you get bots? Oh no, you didn't. But what did you
Man,
do? How did that work?
bots don't help. For let's just put the elephant in the room out there, right? Let's talk about it. The reason why bots don't help is because bots aren't real and they don't communicate. And social media to gain traction, which is we're jumping the gun a little bit because it's going to be in my tips for the people themselves. But the idea is it has to be authentic or real communication. And so how I grew was I figured out a problem that a lot of people had on LinkedIn specifically was they needed a job. They don't have a job. So I created a solution to the problem. And then by giving away the solution for free, what I got out of it was I've amassed a large following of people who appreciated the heart with which I was giving. Right. So the philanthropy is called Project Help You Grow. I launched it back in 2018. At the time, I had 1,520 followers on LinkedIn in 2018. By the end of 2018, I almost had capped out. In fact, I capped out. There's a 30,000 max connection, first connection level on LinkedIn. Most people don't know that, but it's true. Um, so by February of 2019, I had reached 30,000, but it didn't stop there because you can have unlimited followers. So since then, I think I'm at 203,000 something today. Anyways, it goes up every day a little bit, and I don't really. That's not my focus, so I'm not like super or hyper concentrated on how many followers I have. But the idea is there was a problem. I figured out a way to generate a solution, and that solution made me popular. So there you go.
Well, you did it. And that's I think part of the reason why we know each other, not necessarily because I found you on LinkedIn, but through our circles and the network that we run in together, that became part of the story of why I wanted to meet you and why we got connected. So it's interesting to see that part of your story. Now, you were working, as I talked about in the intro, in the graphics and the print industry, and doing some other things in the 2020. Kind of had different plans, and that's where you started making these radical shift towards SEO, digital marketing, website, et cetera. Is that correct? Am I getting the story right?
No, it's 100% true. For the first time in my life, I got laid off. I'm one of these overachiever guys. I don't go for 100. I go for 110, if that makes sense. Like, what extra can I do? And so in 2020, with COVID, my industry was decimated. Print shops were closing right and left. The company that I was working for was laying people off and closing down locations to try not to go under. And so, unfortunately, I had a high salary and I was let go. So at that point, I had to figure out a way to. I still had all my monthly expenses, right? I still had to pay the bills. So I had to figure out a way to generate revenue, and I'd never really thought about being a business owner seriously up to that point because I have 8 children. So I have a large monthly expense and I needed the insurance and things like that. So I thought, well, it's just not practical. So I never really entertained seriously the thought of being a business owner. But when I was laid off, all of a sudden I needed revenue right away. It was faster to build a job than it was to land a job. And the reason why I know that is because with my philanthropy project, Help You Grow, prior to COVID-19 in 2019 and 2020, it took on average about 6.5 months in the United States to land a new job from start to you're onboarded. So I didn't have 6.5 months of money in the bank. I had to do something fast. So I went through my toolbox and said, okay, well, what is it that I can do that will translate into a good business model for the people who hire me to do whatever that was. And it turned out, with 150,000 followers on LinkedIn at the time, with my design background and my ability to produce graphics and video, I launched as a digital media company, and it worked. I was able to pay the bills from the very first month. So I built a job, and as you and I know, that's not necessarily what I wanted to do. Even though I didn't know it, I had to get educated on what I was doing. I built myself this nice little prison. Um, I was working, just in full disclosure, entrepreneurs out there, I was working 16-hour days, 6 days a week. Yeah, that's 96-hour weeks. So I was making good money, but when you broke it down by the hour, I was not making very much. So over the last few years, I've started to figure out how to exit without exiting, I think is the term that you use. I'm not quite there yet. Yeah, I'm not
Boom.
quite. I'm not quite there yet, brother. It's so funny. You invited me to something, and I didn't have time to do it because I was busy working on my business. Not in my wait. I was working in my business on my business. So, anyways, I did. I just laughed as I was texting, and I'm like, this is so ironic. But, anyways, through that process, it was successful, getting me the immediate need. And now, as I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to basically replace myself all the time. Just onboarded a new employee this morning, and I'm hoping that she's going to become my director of ops over time. So that's the goal.
Well, good deal. Well, let me talk to the audience for just a second. So, audience, no matter where you are, whether you're on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, or you're on Zoom, there is the opportunity for you to interact live in this particular webinar. So, all you need to do, if you're on any of the whatever platform you're on, you can go to, if you're in Zoom, you go to the Q&A bubble at the bottom of the screen. Just click the Q&A bubble. You can ask a question. My apprentice Justin will be on the background watching for those questions that come in. He will feed those to both Ira and me. We'll get access to those questions and we'll be able to answer those live. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, you've got a chat feature in this live right now where you're watching somewhere under this video that you can ask questions live. Justin will be monitoring those and we will try to get to every single one of those questions. We had so many questions at our last one that I wasn't able to get to them. So if you were one of the people that asked a question at our last EMS and I didn't get to it in time because we had to finish up, we had so many questions. Make sure you go ahead and ask your question early this time, and we'll make sure that you get to the top of the list. So if you want to ask any questions, make sure that you go ahead and put that in there, and we'll make sure that it gets live answers right here on EMS. That's what this is all about. So, Ira, our promise today to everybody today was we wanted to cover the 3 secrets that will generate website traffic, more website traffic. And I know
Yeah.
that you really, like most of us, when we do these things, we got to give a title that would entice people to want to see it. But really, there's more to it than 3 secrets. There's certainly a lot more than that. But why don't we start there? Why don't we start with kind of the 3 overarching things, and then let's do our little spider webs off of that and go in different directions. So, what do you say? How would you like to start with those 3 things?
Yeah, so what I want to do today, if it's okay, is I want to break it down into 3 categories, because I think if the audience is watching this and they want to take notes, that they'll kind of keep track of the 3 different categories. It'll make it easier for you not only to remember but also to apply. And you might have different people on your teams that could work on each of the sections individually to make a greater cumulative effect. So the 3 categories I want you to keep in mind today is your website itself. So the website. Then I want you to think about category 2, which is your competitor's website, because basically everything that you're doing today, that we're going to talk about today, is in effect a way to overcome or overtake your competitors online. You need to do a better job at this than they are doing so that you can be seen first. Because if you're too far, and the word is obscure, but if you're too far buried on like Google search engine, then people are not going to see you. And I've got stats for you that we'll get into the specifics in a little bit. But then the third category, and I think a lot of people forget about this, there is a third category, and that third category is the audience that actually comes and sees your website. So we got to keep in mind your website, your competitor's website, and your audience. And so if we can do it that way, I think it'll make a lot of sense for everybody.
All right, makes sense to me. So I wrote them down. So we've got the website, which is yours, the website, which is your competitors, and the audience that ends up on your site. So if we talk about those as the 3 kind of the categories, where do we go from here?
Okay, so we want to start on the website itself. All right. There is some technical things that I find as a business owner that most of my clients, when they sign up for SEO, when they're looking to, and SEO, let's just define it real quick because not everybody knows the acronym SEO. What does that mean? It stands for search engine optimization. And if I can share my screen, I want to show something right off the bat because this might help with people so they don't have to take as many notes. Okay. If you go to bowmandigitalmedia.com and then come up here to the services and click SEO, you'll be at this page. Now, on the top, because it's part of my job is to sell our services or at least tell people what we offer. But if you scroll down to the halfway point, just to the middle where you see this first black line, everything I'm going to be talking about today pretty much can be found in here. Okay. So we're going to get to pillar content in a minute. We're going to talk about, is SEO really worth it? And we're going to talk about domain authority. So we'll talk about these things in just a minute. But I just want, as a way of a resource for you guys to understand that you don't necessarily need to write down everything and miss the nuances. You can get the overarching themes and then come in here for the details. So one of the first things that I want to talk about on your website is this idea of video content. And the reason why video content is so important is because of consumer behavior. If you look at the internet as a whole, and in your industry, it might be a little bit different. So you do have to do some industry research. But as a general rule, 80% of people online are going to end up somewhere on a video, like they're watching this live video right now, right? 80% of people end up on a video. So if you're trying to draw people in like a spider web, I love that analogy. You're trying to draw people in to the spider web and get them to stay, which will help you with your SEO. If you have video content, that will help because the end user is most likely going to click this as opposed to read that. Most people are not going to spend a lot of their time reading anymore. The words are important, and we're going to get to the words in just a second, but the video on every page. So a lot of people have like one page that's their media page or their podcast page or whatever, and that's where they put all their videos. And what I'm saying is, instead of doing it that way or just having that, make sure you intersperse on all your pages at least one video because Google, and we're going to talk about Google in just a second and the importance of Google. They are extremely important to all of this, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But Google is tracking through Google Analytics, which I actually have up. I'm going to show people what that is too. But Google is tracking not only how many people are coming to your site and what page they're going on, but they're also looking for this. They call this not a video, they call it interactive media. So if you have MP3 files or voice only files or other types of interactive media like a photo album or any type of accordion content, I'll show you what all this is in just a second. But these are important because when they click on it and they start it, I'll turn that off, but just so you see. So when you click on it, it does something. That's the main thing. Google will track that. Okay. And that's important because now they know you don't just have, look how many tabs I have open right now. This is my brain. It's always like this all the time. I have like 12 tabs open at the moment. Okay. So how does Google know that I'm actually on this page consuming this site? Well, I can do things like scroll, that helps. Or I can click on, a button, or I can click on a play now or expand or anything like that. So you want to put these interactive media pieces. Specifically, video is the most important because, again, consumer behavior, 80% of people online will end up on a video. So give them the video they're looking for on your page. Make sure the videos are relevant to the content that you're sharing. So this particular video just happens to be under the understanding pillar content, the foundation to SEO success, which we're going to talk about again in just 1 second. But this video relates to this. I'm basically saying everything that's written next to it in the video. But why did I do that? Here is another part about your website that is critical to understand and a foundation to being performing better with SEO. And it's this: Google does not index your graphics, your videos, or any other media on your site. What do I mean by that? It doesn't take the content that that video contains and give you credit in SEO form in the Google algorithm. There is no component that addresses the quality of the content or the topics that you cover inside any media unless it's OCR. So this OCR stands for optical character recognition. It has to be OCR to get indexed. Now, you might not know this, most people don't, but Google is actually tracking what your website and specifically what each page is talking about. What's the content? So there's two terms. There's the term wider and the term deeper. Wide is when you cover a broad topic but you don't necessarily get in depth in it. Deep is when you go drill down and talk about something exhaustively. You really want to do that. This term pillar content, and I'm going to explain what this is right now. But pillar content is a lot of information about a specific topic. So you have a page on your website that drills down deep, exhaustively covers a topic, but also you want to go wide. So you want to go wide and deep on pillar pages. Typically, to be considered a pillar page, you need at least 3,000 words or more. So if you have videos on your page and you're sharing the content with the end users who come, the visitors, that's good. But as for SEO, you also need to have it written out. So you can use tools like Otter AI, or there's all kinds of tools that you can use to transcribe the videos into written content and then post that somewhere on the page. And if you don't want it to gobbledygook up your page, totally get it. Then another thing that you can do, I have an example right here. So I'm just going to scroll to it. This is what we call an accordion in WordPress. All right. So accordion is when you click on it and it opens up. So you can provide all the written content and still have it in a pretty easy to digest manner. So it's more visually what we call UX UI. It's a better experience for your end users. But when you have it in there, whether it's open or closed, when the Google bots come and index your site, you're going to get credit from Google what's here, even if your visitors never read it. That's extremely important because think about it like this. Let's say we were baking a cake. We'd have a recipe, and inside it, you'd have a certain amount of ingredients, and each ingredient, you'd have a certain quantity based, like, let's say you add eggs and you need 4 eggs, and maybe you need flour, you need 2 cups of flour. Let's say you need half a cup of sugar, maybe you need a quarter stick of butter, right? But it's different numbers. Well, what Google's doing is okay, so see, here's the word SEO. All right. Now, how many times or what's the frequency rate that I have the word SEO on this page? Well, one of the main things that I need to do is make sure I'm using that in as many times as I can, more than my competitor, but also sometimes you want to have SEO, which is the acronym, and other times you want to write it out, search engine optimization. In fact, if you look at the URL here, you can see I have the page isn't called SEO, it's called search engine optimization. So what I'm doing here is I'm covering the bases because I don't know if people on Google are searching SEO or are they searching search engine optimization. I want to make sure I cover both to cover the bases, right? So that's the idea of pillar content is you cover this exhaustively. And why do I have all this information on my page that's just there to basically describe my services and tell you how much it costs and those things? Well, the reason why I did it here as opposed to on a blog is because if I separated the two pages and made them two different pages, Google looks at them really as competition. The word Google uses is link cannibalization, but Google is not going to show both pages. If my competitor has one single page that's better, they would go above both the single pages. But because I've combined them and I have more content on this topic on one page, this is a pillar page. I've designated it. Some of you might know it as cornerstone content, but today's vernacular, we use the term pillar because that's the term that Google uses. So pillar content, we designate it as pillar content. And when Google's looking at my website, I have the word SEO in blogs and on other pages like the homepage, but I'm telling Google that I want you to show this one whenever possible for SEO. And I've designated that in the metadata. I don't know that we're going to have time to get into metadata today, but here's my final tip on your website. Okay. I recommend that you have at least 6 pillar pages on your website. These pages need to be at least 3,000 words each. You need to use Yoast flushability rules. If you're not familiar with that, I don't have time to explain it today, but there's a set of rules like how you use your headings, how many words you use, passive voice, punctuation, repeating of starting a sentence with the same word 3 times or more. There's these rules that are out there. And if you follow them and set it up, it's what we call SEO optimized content. You want to have 6 of those. You should have somebody on your team updating these 6 pages every single month. New content. Don't have to rewrite a whole new one from scratch. Just add some stuff to it. Maybe you got a new video. Maybe you've got a new graphic. Maybe you've got another topic, like an FAQ question that comes in. People keep asking the same questions about SEO. Then you want to address it in your pillar content. You need to do that every month. The reason why that frequency rate is your site, your website will get indexed by Google every single month, at least once. They actually do it. There's a variation. It's somewhere between 4 and 30 days. Every website on the planet gets indexed by Google bots every 4 to 30 days. And every time they index you, you want to show them that you've got new content because Google likes to promote newer content over older content, what they call stale content. That's part of the new algorithm. They increased the score for new content. So if you're updating your website and you've got 3,000 plus words, it's new, the odds of you landing on page 1 go up significantly. So there's the tips
All
for
right.
your website.
So on our website as a category, we want to pay attention to video content. So that's number one. We want to make sure. I think I heard you say at least one video on every page somewhere. There needs to be a
Correct.
video or interactive content of some sort. And then one of the tips you gave was that optical character recognition, the OCR. So we
Mhm.
need to have the video transcribed and those words also somewhere on the screen so that Google can find it.
Yep.
And then also pillar content of 3,000 or more words, at least 6 of those pages that follows Yoast rules. And
Yeah.
for those of that don't know what that is, I didn't know what it was until a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to one of my marketing guys, and he was talking about it. But ChatGPT can do that for you. You can pop in what you want it to do, and it doesn't do 3,000 words because it's too long. But you can
Yeah.
break it into sections and say, "Make this follow Yoast," and it knows how to do that. So
Well, let's
there's a
talk
little
about
tip.
let's talk about that real quick. So ChatGPT, what you want to do for your Yoast flushability rules is you want to have a heading. So you'd be heading 2, right? So you write your heading. You could put this, you could just take this right here, put it into ChatGPT. It's usually going to write you somewhere between 400 and 500 words. Now, if you're following flushability rules, you want to max that out at 300. But what you can do is put in your topic, say, please write about this in 300 words or less. And then all you have to do for each section is just put in that same thing. So your heading, your 300 words or less, and then your chat GBT can do the rest. Absolutely. And then you can get your whole
All
page
right.
without.
Well, that's good. So if you are got questions about that first category of secrets to generate more website traffic, make sure you pop that into the question and answer page on whether you're on LinkedIn, Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Make sure you ask those questions now. We'll get maybe Ira can answer that live as we go through. So category number 1, Ira, is your website. You gave us some really good stuff there. I'm obviously very committed to videos on my site. And this gives me a good opportunity to talk about our major title sponsor of EMS. So forgive me for just a minute. Let me talk about Story.
Sure.
Story spelled STORYY. And they are a company that works exclusively with content creators to create social media short form videos. So right now, those videos are everywhere and they could be that lead generator to get people from your short form video to your website. And so if you've seen those videos where it's short, it's vertical, it's got on-screen graphics, on-screen subtitles, They're really catchy. They've got good zoom cuts. It's edited really well, got background music. That's exactly what Story does. They take all of the guesswork away from you having to figure it out on your own. They'll even give you prompts. They'll say, hey, in this category, this is the question you need to answer. You just simply record it, you upload it into their app, and then they do the rest. They'll go all the way to posting it with the relative hashtags, the content, everything you need right there for you. If you want to try Story out for free, you go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. That's therealjasonduncan.com/story, STORYY. They give you one free video edit to let you see what they can do. And because you use my affiliate link, you're going to get a discount on their services. Story's amazing. They do almost all of my social media stuff. So go check them out at therealjasonduncan.com/story. Thanks to Connor and Devin and the guys at Story for sponsoring this episode of EMS. All right, Ira, let's go to category number 2 on our 3 secrets. So this category number 2 is our competitor site. How in the world can our competitor site help us generate more traffic?
Well, you'd be amazed. You actually can generate a lot of traffic if you're paying attention to what your competitors are doing. So, on your website, one of the things that you should have loaded is Google Analytics. And I can come back to that later. But another tool, if you're not familiar, I'm going to share my screen again, or if we can pop over, I'm going to show them this. This is something called SEM Rush, and you can use this for running, like one website, and you can do everything I'm going to show you for free. Okay. If you have multiple websites, they do have a free daily use limit. So just right off the top, you can do 10 searches a day, I believe, on their free. But I am purposely logged out at the moment so that I can show you what the free stuff looks like. All right. So, one of the things about your competitors are they're doing some things probably a little bit better than you, and maybe some things not as well. If you can figure out what it is that they're doing better, and you just even catch up and make that a break even instead of a negative, uh, a deficit, then you're going to most likely pass them by. So, one of the things that you can do is monitor what you're doing and what they're doing. Now, remember, I said this is SEM Rush. It's very easy. You could just Google this and it'll come right up. But I've got one of my clients' websites. All right. This is Walton Management Services, and they're in the HR, VOE, WOTC space. Okay. But they have competitors. And so what we do, we not only track them here on Google Analytics, like right now there's 6 people on the website. Okay. So we're tracking what they do, but we're also looking at SEM Rush and a few other places that I'm not going to talk about today because they're not free, but you can come use this one without spending any money, and you can track how you're doing there, but you can also put in their website address and you can check how they're doing. So one of the things that we like to look at is like, okay, well, how many people are coming to the site? Now, just in full disclosure, this site doesn't necessarily pick up everything. If you look at the traffic from Google Analytics, it's going to show a little bit different number than SEMrush, and that's okay because you're just going to treat this as a barometer. All right. So when you're looking at things, like, you want to see how many organic keywords are you ranking for? How many organic keywords are they ranking for? That's a huge clue as to how you're doing against your competitor. Now, if you've got 430 like Walton, that's pretty good. So we're going to get down to this in just a second, a little bit more information on this. But if you go to your competitor and they're doing 1,200, then you're like, okay, there's a discrepancy there that I want to try to at least catch up on. Now, if you take the lessons I just taught you with the pillar content, transcribing your videos and putting that on your website, if you do those 2 things, that'll help you catch up faster than, anyways, it'll help you catch up very fast. All right. So, because a lot of people are not doing that. They're putting a lot of visual tools and videos, but they're not putting up the written OCR words to go with it. That's why that matters. But this right here is what they call SERP features. This is the most important thing about SEO that most people just have never heard of. And so I'm gonna show you something on Google, and then I'm gonna come back to this because we're gonna tie it all together. All right. So let's say we were looking for HR VOE services. All right. Now this is something that Walton actually is trying to rank for. There on Google, there's always going to be the sponsored ads, but most people will go down past that and they're going to come to right here. This is the very first organic result. So this is what Google is saying is the best place on the internet to get information about HR VOE service. Now, if you don't know what that is, don't worry. This stands for Human Resources Verification of Employment Service. All right. But it's saying that this is the very best one. Now, it's interesting. The University of California is not in this particular space, but they've done a really good job on this page, on this topic. So their page is ranking second. And then we've got Chapman third. Now, I know from my research, which comes from Pew, I just read a report from Pew, just in full disclosure, but in 2022, 30% of everybody who's made a search on Google would just click on this very first result. You had about 30% on the other two. So, in other words, if you're in the top three, you're going to get about 60% of the overall search volume on all of Google. Now, how much search volume is that? Not that I want to get too nerdy on you, but there are 81,000 searches a second on Google as of 2022 for the whole year, right? So you take the whole search volume for Google for the year, divide it by the second, and it was 81,000 searches per second. That equates to 7 billion searches every single day. And it's 210 plus billion searches every month. That's a lot of traffic. So the work that I'm telling you to
Wow.
do, I'm basically trying to get you right here. Because if you can get in one of these three spots on something that is a core business service that you provide, product or service, that will change your stars, as far as I know, faster than anything else on the planet because you're talking about a lot of volume. Now, just how much volume you're talking about in your category, I'm going to share with you a tool in just a second on how you can figure that out. So we'll come back to that too. But I want you to understand that the goal should be this. Google calls this SERP. SERP is an acronym that stands for Search Engine Results Page. You want to be on the first page. You hear that a lot, but you want to be on the first page for the things that matter, not the things that don't. So, in other words, if I'm doing marketing services, which I am, and you find me because you're looking for trying to find a job, it doesn't really help me. It doesn't really help you. That's not a good thing. So, it's got to be the right audience. You hear that expression a lot, but that's what we're talking about here. It's the right audience. These are people that are looking for the stuff. Now, what about the rest of the page? You probably don't know this off the top of your head, but that's all right. Google, the search engine, will put 10 organic results on every page. So if you see that there's 25 pages of results, that means there's 250 total results. But you need to be on the first page of Google, and here's why. 75% of Google users will never come down here and click on page 2 or next. They won't go on any other pages. In fact, if they don't like the answers that are here, what's most likely to happen is they'll come up here into what Google calls the query and they'll reset it. They'll try a different expression right up here. Okay. So, what happens if you're on page 2? The number of people that travel to page 2 is about 28% of the overall volume. It's a little bit less than that, but give or take. It's in the mid 20s, okay? If you're not on page 2 but you're on page 3, only 9% of people will actually make it this far. And if you're past page 3, if you're 4 or after, you've got less than a 1% shot of being found via Google, which is why Google doesn't drive a lot of traffic to most websites. It's not that the business isn't on Google, it's just that people aren't finding them in the search. Because let's be honest, most people are not searching for Bowman Digital Media in Google. If you already know Bowman Digital Media or the real Jason Duncan, you're just going to type our website in the browser and go straight to it. You might have it bookmarked as a favorite and you go straight to it. So, what Google really helps with is not the people who already know you, it's the people who are looking for what you do, but they don't know where to get that. They're leaning on Google for help to find it. That really is what Google is for. So, in all the content that you're creating on your website, you want to take the questions, the queries, think about your FAQs, and you want to answer those questions as many times in as many ways as possible, not on an FAQ page, because you're not really interested in driving traffic to the FAQ. You want to do that on your main pages, specifically your pillar pages. You want to answer all the questions there. It's not that you can't have an FAQ, but if you have an FAQ page, have it hyperlink over to one of your pillar pages, and that'll strengthen your hand. All right. So let's come back here to this SEMrush page. Now that we've got a little bit of an education on how Google works. So what this is saying is we've got some of our keywords are top 3, meaning we're in the top 3 positions on the first page, on page 1, which again is where all the volume comes from. So we've got some words that are not on the first position. In fact, they only have one of those right now. So we're working to build that up. They've got 7 more that are in position 4 through 10. In other words, they're not 1, 2, or 3, but they're 4 through 10 on page 1. That's good. This is healthy. We want more of this, but it's healthy. Now, this is telling me that we have 127 words that rank somewhere between page 2 and page 5. Now, I wish Google would change that because there's a lot of volume difference between page 2 and page 5. But this is how they slice
Yeah.
it up. So this is how SEMrush reports it. And then they've got on pages 5 through 10, 191 more words, and they've got 2 that are in after page 10, which are basically irrelevant. Okay. So let me answer the question: how can you take what's on your competitors' websites and drive traffic to your website? Because this is the key takeaway. Now, you have to understand all of that to understand how to use it. So that's why I had to explain it. But what's interesting is Quintel, they consider Quintel a competitor. But Quintel is actually owned by the same people who own Walton. This is a sister site. So you need to understand that they don't understand everything about your businesses. So sometimes a little bit of your own information is needed to make this make more sense. But this is telling me that the town of Walton, Walton.com, Walton.co, city of Walton, these are what Google thinks are the main competitors. Now, I know that that's not true. I know who their competitors really are. If this was true, I could just click on this. It would open up a new expression of SEMrush, which I'll click on it. It's fine. So if you click on it, it'll open up a new expression. Well, it's supposed to. I don't know. Anyways, it would open up a new expression and you could see what their keywords are. Because what I haven't gone to, if you keep
Yeah,
scrolling
that's what I
down,
wanted to ask you about is keywords. That seems like a lot of people talking about that.
we're
Where
going to
does
get
that
into
play into
keywords.
all this?
Yeah, this is the bot. This is where we're driving right now. Okay. So these keywords in here, it's not showing us what it is, but it does show us what our keywords are right here. Okay. Walton management, Walton on next check, login, Walton NG. This is what it thinks are the keywords. Again, these aren't necessarily the ones that I think drive traffic, but I'm going to show you what to do. What you do is you put your competitor's name, website address right here. You click search. It'll bring up their page. You want to scroll down to see their keywords. And then you want to compare your keyword list and how many times you've used it versus how many times they're using it. And make sure that you have at least the same volume and preferably more. You want to outpace your competitors on the keywords that they're using. Okay. What if you don't know what the keywords should be? Or what if you don't know what the volumes of the keywords are? This is huge. Now, earlier, I put in for Walton because one of the things that they talk about is employee retention credit. You might know it as the ERC. With this, there's a certain amount of volume that the word has on Google. And in this particular case, it's 13,000 searches on Google every month. And that's happening on an average for the last 12 months. So, in other words, employee retention credit over the last 12 months has probably been seen 13,000 times 12. And then they divided it out and said, okay, it's just 13,000 on average. Now, sometimes you're going to get what's called a competition rate and IAAT. I don't really have time to explain this, but this is important. This is the words that go inside your headings and go inside your hyperlinks when you're hyperlinking to another site. And your competition levels, when they're blank, that just means it doesn't register it. And it looks like it just misfired when I hit the enter button because it normally be there. But what you're looking for are terms that have higher volumes and lower competition rates. So that's the main goal. So you can find keywords on SEMrush, or you can use tools like Word Tracker. Word Tracker has a free version. They also have a paid version. I am actually logged into this one, so it is what it is. But you can go, I think, 3 free searches every month, or I'm sorry, every day. I think is the free daily use limit. But keywords are important. So if you don't know what a keyword is, the keyword is like on my website in this particular page, everything related to SEO. So a keyword would be SEO, but also a keyword would be pillar because there are people out there right now searching for what is pillar content? How do I write pillar content? How many pillar content pages do I need on my website? So what are they doing? What they're doing is what Google is doing is saying, okay, they're indexing or they're keeping track of how many of these keywords you have on your web page and how much content, written content you have around those topics. Because what's most likely to happen is somebody's going to come in here and go, what is pillar content? And what I want to happen is I want to be one of the first three here. No, I'm not there. I've got work to do, right? But I want to be one of these first three. That's the goal. So what this is telling me is these people are doing a better job so far at getting the volume from Google, and I have work to do. But all of us should be working on our websites, on our keywords continually. It's not a I want to take $10,000 or $50,000 and pay a SEO company to fix everything, soup it up, and it's good for life. It doesn't work that way. It's a dynamic, so it's always changing. The algorithm on Google changes, your competitors' content on their website changes, new information in the industry comes out. So Google's constantly checking these keywords and the content surrounding the keywords so that it can make sure what it really wants to have happen is when you come here and you put in whatever your query is, and it gives you the suggestions, which it's doing here, it wants to make sure like if I come here and click on this, it wants to make sure that I leave satisfied. I don't go, man, Google didn't give me good information because now what do I have to do? I have to go somewhere else to try to find the answer. And Google wants to keep its um, the people that utilize the service, their clients, in effect, they want to keep them coming back for more. So keywords are extremely important.
All right. So we've got the website being the categories. We talked about your website, and we did a deep dive into video content, OCR, pillar content, and then the competitor site using Google Analytics and SEMrush to make sure that we are maximizing our searchability and the keywords so that we're performing better than our key competitors in those metrics, right? Is there
Correct.
anything else on that second category before we move into the third one?
I mean, the main thing to keep in mind if you're looking for an easy way to remember this is it's a race, right? It's like it doesn't have to be the tortoise and hare, but your job is to outscore in Google's algorithm with points. You just want to keep scoring points because whoever has more points in the algorithm is who Google's going to throw up first. That's going to be the one that they put top of the page. So just keep in mind that your competitors will give you a clue by what they're writing about, by what they're posting about, by what content is on their website. You can get to know what you need to do. Look for the deficits, look where you're weaker, look where you're stronger. But here's the other thing, I probably should have mentioned this too. There's this thing called backlinks. And backlinks basically can be internal. Those are pages on your website that point to another page. So maybe I go from my home page to my services page, for example, right? That would be a backlink. You click on it, it takes me from one page to the other. Those are internal. You have external links, when, let's say, for example, the real Jason Duncan puts a podcast out and he's got a link, a hyperlink that goes to Bowman Digital Media, that would be considered an external link. Google is looking at number of backlinks. So when you create new pages, or you can get your website linked on another website that points back to your website, that helps you. So in your competitor analysis, you can track, again, if we go over to Google, or I'm sorry, SEMrush, you can track and see how many links that you have. In this case, we have 531 total, 7 different websites. So this is free. When you search yours and you search your competitors, just compare these numbers. You want higher numbers. That's the goal. All right. So use the keywords more. Make sure that you have your content set up correctly, and then build as many backlinks as you can, because that will make a difference. When it's a tie, they're typically going to default. The world knows it as a domain authority, which is actually coined by Moz, but Google doesn't use this. But this is just a barometer. So the domain authority score is what SEMrush is looking at and going, hey, we think that you rate as a 22. Well, Moz actually rates Walton as a 26, but neither one of those actually really matter per se, because Google doesn't use that analytic. But it is a way for you to kind of have that barometer and know how you're doing compared to your competitors. So these, get familiar with the SEMrush numbers and systems. And if somebody out there has a question that they want to ask about it, they can always send me a message and I'll tell them quickly. I'll help explain it so they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
All right. Well, let's move into the third category on your audience, that once
Yeah.
they get onto your site, how
Yeah.
does that help us generate more traffic?
Yeah. So the biggest mistake that people make when they formulate their website and they figure out how they're going to compose it, a lot of times they're doing this thing which it's all about them, right? This is, the founder, and this is the executive team, and here's all the services we offer, and here's a little bit about our backstory, and there's all this about them. And when you have a brand new visitor, frankly, they don't really care about any of that usually. Okay. What they really want to know is, how do you help me fix my problem, whatever that problem is? So the biggest
Yep.
thing when it comes to visitors and getting them not only to come back, but sometimes even more importantly, to share your website, your resource that you're offering to the world via your website with other people, whether that be on social media, or they're emailing a partner or somebody, a friend that they know needs that thing. So there's a couple things that you can do right away. There's this thing called case study, which I absolutely love, because what a case study is, it's usually told by the client. So somebody that you
Right.
help, and they go and they'll talk about the story. Here's the problem we had before we ran into the real Jason Duncan. Then through my meetings with Jason Duncan, he helped me fix this problem. And now, because I implemented the solution by real Jason Duncan, here's how I benefit. And you can do that in a video. You should do that in a video, because we know 80% of people online are going to end up on a video, and people will watch it, and they can watch it right there on your website. So that's good. But even more importantly than that, just having the case study, whether it be written, a graphic, or a video, however you're going to present it, the fact is they're speaking directly to, if you do this right, the problems that you solve through your services, but they're not getting it from a salesperson. They're not even getting it from a member of your own company. They're getting it from somebody that's in their industry or who they can relate to. And it's
Yeah.
just received so much better. So, right off the bat, have case studies, have referrals from your clients, but don't just do like a little type out. This is the mistake a lot of people are doing with referrals. They're just typing up a little blurb and it's in quotes and it's got the person's name. Sometimes it's just the first name. You want to personalize this. So you want to make sure, if you can't get the video, at least get their photo. And if they don't have a photo, usually you can go to their LinkedIn profile or one of their social media profiles and grab that, use that, right? And then what I try to do as a value add is I try to link that back then to their LinkedIn profile to give them a little extra reward for giving us the referral. So you want case studies first, you want referrals, but you want to make it so that you don't want the person to think you wrote it yourself. And there are people out there who do that. Don't do that, right? Be everything above board. Let's be above board and have our integrity, right? But have them write it so that it's more believable, right? Like, don't just say, "Hey, Jason Duncan is the greatest thing since sliced bread." To have them try to explain why, right? Like, what did he do to help me? And I want to put it like that on the page. Now, the other thing with the website, just the whole thing, you want to get away from talking about me or I or we. You want to talk as much, write your content as much as you can about your clients. So FAQs, which just stands for frequently asked questions. I talked about that earlier. A lot of people have FAQ pages and they're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't have one. I'm just saying that that really should be your cue card for your whole website. Because if they're frequently asked questions, if they're legitimately frequently asked questions by your prospects and clients, then your website should be addressing those over and over and over again in as many different ways that you can express it. So the biggest thing with the end user, to keep the end user in mind, is don't tell them so much the how, but to tell them about the what, like what it is that you're doing, not the specific, like, okay, the science of SEO and all the different steps that we're going to take to boost your web presence scores in Google. I'm not necessarily going to spend a lot of time going into those details because I think, frankly, I'll lose the audience's attention. But if I can give them examples of how we took somebody who was buried on page 7 and went to page 1 in 3 months, that's something that people will resonate with. So you're looking for that, right? So it's more of a sale from a salesman's perspective. It's less about the process and more about the end result. So you understand, I call them pain points or headaches. So you want to describe what the headache is so they can nod their head and go, "Yep, that's me. That's exactly why I'm here." And then you want to detail out what happens through the process and how you're going to fix the problem for them and take their headache away. I call that the Advil. So if you're setting up your content with others more as the focus and less about you. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have anything about you. You should. Just don't make that the meat. Make that the whipped cream. Make that the vegetable that goes with it, but focus on the steak on the plate. And the steak on the plate is what their problems are. Remember how I grew on LinkedIn? I didn't grow on LinkedIn because I'm smarter than anybody. I'm funnier. I'm better looking. I'm only 5'7". I'm not very tall. Right? I got buck teeth. All this stuff. I shouldn't have 203,000 followers on LinkedIn, but except what I did was I figured out what people needed to help finding a job. I created a solution that would help with that. And then I let the world know about it through the website and through social media posts. And I grew my following that way. You can do the same thing with your business via your website. And to that end, with your end users, make sure you are doing some demographic research on your prospects, not the whole, like, think of the bell curve here. The idea is not to focus on the whole world because you say, well, I do something, anybody could be a client. Sure, anybody could be a client. Okay, I'm with you. But if you go back through your historical data, you probably could figure out a pretty good sweet spot. It was just recommended to us in a training session this last week that you make that sweet spot 15 years. That's pretty good. That's more narrow than I normally do, just in full disclosure, but that's a good. So you find your sweet spot, whatever it is. It could be, maybe they're 20 to 40, maybe they're college educated, maybe they're homeowners, whatever your demographic or psychographic information is. Make sure you identify that sweet spot, and then you're creating content that speaks directly to them. And then the other part of this is make sure you take that then and go out on social media where that same demographic is, because we could talk about the differences in social media. They're not all the same, right? Facebook and LinkedIn are not the same. LinkedIn is not the Facebook for business users. That's not what it is. It's something completely different. So you can find, if you do the research, you can hire somebody like me and we can tell you. But once you identify your demographic and who you're going after, the odds are we could tell you which social media platform those people are specifically hanging out. Make sure you're paying attention and making content and engaging with content from other people on that platform. Whether you do it or somebody on your team does it, doesn't really matter. When I say you, I mean your company, not you specifically as the entrepreneur or business owner. All right.
Yep.
But make sure that's being done, because all of that will generate website traffic too. And you want them to share your posts and drive new people to your website. A social media share can drive a lot of new traffic. Now, it's not nearly as much as Google, but it still can make the difference between you making a profit this month or increasing revenue and breaking even, or maybe even the opposite, where we start to rescind and lose ground. You don't want to do that. So if you keep in mind that you have a core audience, core prospect audience, and you create the content on your website and on your social media, and which social medias you're hanging out on, if you do all that, you're going to find a lot more success in a quick amount of time. It can accelerate your website traffic. Now, here's what's cool. When you do that, one of the major factors from Google on how they rank your website, where it stacks up in the SERP, one of the major criterion is website traffic. So success begets success. As your audience on your website grows, as they engage more with your content, you're taking those visitors then away from your competitor, and Google's going, well, why would I send them here when this is a site that's 3 times more popular for the same topic? I'm going to send them to the popular site. As long as you have your keywords done correctly, you have your pillar content done, and you have your there's some basic things you need to have. You got to have your schema and your robotics. You have to have your metadata right. You got to follow those flushability rules I talked about on Yoast. But if you do all that, and you focus on your core demographic, the things they're interested in, you're answering their questions, you're doing it from their perspective, you're showing them what's in it for them, you're gonna crush it.
And when we get that crushing happening, we should be able to convert that into revenue for the business. So let's recap and talk about what you can do specifically, maybe to help some people out who might want help with this directly. But the 3 categories to recap: you got your own website. And as Ira talked about, is we need to make sure that we have video content all over the website, a video per page, but not just the video. Make sure that you're doing what he was referring to as optical character recognition, OCR. So make sure you're transcribing that. I love Otter.ai. That's something I
Me
use
too.
all the time. Although YouTube now, if you upload every video into YouTube, YouTube is an automatic transcription service that you don't have to pay for either. That comes directly from your YouTube account. But either way, make sure that's on your site with the video so that Google's bots can crawl that and find all those words. And then one of the things I think is probably the biggest takeaway for me is this idea of pillar content, of taking, like, what do I write about? I write about delegation. I write about time management. I write about how to hire the right people, systems and processes. These are articles I need to start posting on my blog, on my website, and make sure it's fresh and active to bring people. So that drives website traffic. The
Yep.
second thing I talked about is knowing what our competitors are doing. We can use Google Analytics and a tool called SEM Rush, and we can understand how they're doing their site, how they're getting traffic, and ethically steal that traffic by just improving our site to overcompensate for what they're not doing well, using keywords and backlinks as much as possible. And then the third category Ira told us about today is our audience on our site. We need to make sure that we keep people on the site as long as possible. Produce case studies. Talk about your testimonials need to have the real pictures of the people that are saying it and real words, not just fake stuff, obviously. And we need to write about our clients, write from our clients' experience, not just about what we can do, which keeps people on the site longer. I think all of this is fantastic secrets for us to increase traffic, which we can in turn, of course, generate more revenue on our site. Now, you obviously have a digital media company, and part of what you've talked about, or maybe all of what you've talked about today, are services that you offer. Would you like to take a few minutes just to tell the audience how you might be able to help them if they want to engage you as the expert to do it for them?
Absolutely. I have up on my screen, I don't know if we want to share it, but I have a special we just launched. Well, officially we launched it last night, but it's called the June special. I'm just trying to get a little bit of a head start with June because I know it's May 31st today. But basically, what we're doing, some of you might be going, well, Ira and Jason, I don't even have a website. I didn't really think about it, but now that you'd mentioned all this stuff, and I'm missing out on all this Google traffic, because Google is not going to show your social media pages, y'all. If you want Google to share your business, you need to have a website. It blows my mind when I hear that people don't have one. But sometimes people have old ones, Jason. They're outdated. There's a lot broken with them, and it's just easier and faster to start over. So what I'm saying is, if somebody's willing to sign up for 12 months of our SEO package, we will build out. I've never done this before. It's the largest special I've ever offered. We'll build out
Boom.
up to a 10-page website that's optimized for SEO. You don't have to worry about metadata, schema, robotics. Are we following flexibility rules? Is there video content? All this. We're gonna do it for you at no charge. Like, when I first thought of that, I was like, yeah, I can't do that. But then I thought, yeah, I can. I'm gonna do it. So help me help you with this special. Now, if you don't like the special, it's okay. I have a lot of other things. Our SEO page that we already, I think, shared in the comments, or maybe it'll be a link to the video. But on it, I just want to show you that there's different packages, and it's not as expensive as you might have thought. For example, if you need to increase sales, as Jason said, that's the whole point of this. Ultimately, you want to drive traffic so that you can increase sales. If you
Right.
didn't do that, what point would it be? Okay, so we want to help you increase your sales. My first package, on page broad package, this is what 90% of probably the people watching will need. It's not that expensive. It's $750 a month investment. And we give you a lot of stuff. Don't necessarily worry about all this. Sometimes it's just better to show people what we're actually going to do so they can feel comfortable. But basically, the bottom line is we're going to help increase your website rankings on Google, and we're going to do it without breaking the bank. So if you have a bigger website, let's say you're in an enterprise type of a role or world where you have a lot of competitors, maybe you have 100 different pages on your website, well, you might want to step up into the gold package, and then we do a lot. But we also have, remember, we were talking about backlinks. So building backlinks, we have some writing campaigns that we do. We do pillar content. Look at this. I kept this lower than it should be because I know how important it is and the game changer that it is for my clients. So we will write one pillar content, 3,000 plus words every month, that will help you rank on Google for $500. It's the least expensive program I have on here, but it is a game changer because most websites right now do not have pillar content at all. So if you can get ahead of the curve, you can start driving a lot of extra traffic for just $500 a month. So anyway, it's there. We also do the same thing with blogs. We'll write blogs, 2 of them for you, 1,500 words each. I didn't mention this before, but I should. Google, there was they analyze the consumer behavior on Google every year. There's independent companies. I use Pew Research because I trust their data. So what Pew said was that in 2022, to make the first page, remember that's so important because that's where most of the people are going to stop, is that first page. To make that first page, on average, you had to have a web page, not a website. So any specific page on your website needed to be at least 1,447 words in total to make it to the first page of Google. Now in 2023, that number is going to go up because of pillar content. But when we write blogs, knowing that it takes at least 1,447 words to rank, we're trying to give you a puncher's chance of ranking on every piece of material we write. So that's why we do that. We also do backlink building, and you guys can come here. I actually have a course if somebody's interested in learning how to do this for themselves. It's like you're still in bootstrap mode and you don't have the money to pay every month. This is a one-time fee you can pay, and I do it through videos where I teach people. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, the June special is if you want to sign up for the service and you don't have a website, or you have an old website that just is broken, we'll fix one up for you real nice, and then we'll give you the service that you're paying for is the one where we get you there really fast and we help you compete with the biggest of the big people out on the planet, right? So anyways, that's the services we offer and the special that we have.
All right, everybody, go to bowmandigitalmedia.com, bowmandigitalmedia.com. Look for the June special. Sign up. That's just for you guys. He's rolling this out special for you. So go check that out, bowmandigitalmedia.com. I want to thank Ira for being the guest expert today. Thank you for digging into this. This is really good. I know that one my action items walking away from this for me is that my apprentice Justin is in the back end of this webinar right now. And Justin, I need you to help me. We got to get pillar content on our blogs. We need to get this going. Newsletters that are going out. Anything that I talk about with regard to my 4 core principles that I talk about, that's what we need to get working so that we can get more people to show up on our site. So Ira, it's a blessing to know you as a friend. Thank you for being here today to do this. Everybody, can't recommend Ira enough. Besides the fact that he actually knows what he's talking about, he's a good dude. He's a really, really good dude. And I had the chance to meet his wife. Seems like a cool chick. Met her at an event this past weekend in Pensacola where I was speaking, and they were there. So, but Ira, thanks for being here, man. Congratulations on all your success over the last few years, and best of luck to you as you continue to go. I'll let you hop out of here. I've got a few things I need to tell the audience about what's coming up on the next Entrepreneur Masters series. So our next EMS is going to be on June the 14th. I've got a guest expert coming in named Dr. Justin Mosley, who is the mindset doctor. We're going to be talking about the mindset revolution. Double your business with one bold shift. So this is going to be just like today. It's a 90-minute webinar that I host. I got this guest, Dr. Justin Mosley, the mindset doctor. We're going to talk about the tools to improve your self-image. We're going to talk about how to master some mind shift techniques and how to gain a fresh perspective on how mindset impacts every single aspect of your life. Like Ira was today, like I am, Dr. Justin Mosley is also a TEDx speaker. He's the founder of Mindshift International, and he brings his expertise as a successful chiropractor to the now being a mindset mentor to guide you. He's the host of a Mindset Doctor podcast, and we're going to have participation, live Q&A. It's going to be a great episode for you to get this one shift, just one thing we're going to talk about during that show that'll double your business. So to make sure you register, go to the realjasonduncan.com/EMS to register for the next live. I do want to apologize for those of you that are watching this after the fact. We did have some technical difficulties on some of our live streams today. And so if you didn't get a chance to watch this live and you're having to watch the recordings later, thank you for making it this far. And I do apologize. Obviously, sometimes these things are out of our control. But if you like this type of stuff, I would be remiss for not telling you about an upcoming special event here in Tennessee in the Great Smoky Mountains coming up at the end of the month of June. June 25, 6, and 7, I'm opening up my cabin in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee to only 5 male entrepreneurs to come in and do a mastermind intensive for 2.5 days. We're going to have a private chef on site. We're going to have all the top shelf food and booze, anything that we need just to hang out and have fun. But more than just having fun, we're actually going to spend the entire day Monday on June 26th, that entire day doing live hot seat sessions in person so that every single person present gets an hour and a half to 2 hours where we all focus on your business. What issues, what opportunities are being presented? How can we work through those together? At the end of the day, Monday, we're going to relax, chill out, hang out, watch the sunset, go on a hike. And then the next day, all day Tuesday, we're going to spend that same amount of time digging into action plans for every single person. So what you're going to do is you're going to walk away with an action plan that's going to transform your business into the revenue generating machine that you want. This is a true mastermind intensive experience just for $2,500 in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, East Tennessee. So if you're interested, you can go to my website, therealjasonduncan.com/intensive. If you want any extra information about that, just send me a DM through LinkedIn or Instagram. I'll be happy to get you in. We don't have that many beds left. It's only 5 people. So make sure you're one of the 5. You don't want to miss out on this. So thank you again for tuning in to this episode of the Entrepreneur Master Series. Make sure you join us on June the 14th for our next one on the Mindset Revolution. Double your business with one bold shift. Once again, thank you to Ira Bowman, Bowman Digital Media, for being our guest expert on the show today. I'll see you next time. Until then, I am the real Jason Duncan. And as always, Jesus is King.